Good morning. I am Sambhav Choudhury, and today I am in conversation with Professor Aditya Mukherjee. Professor Aditya Mukherjee was the professor of contemporary Indian history at Jawaharlal Nehru University, where he taught for more than 40 years. He was the dean of the School of Social Sciences at JNU, the director of the Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Advanced Studies, the president of Indian History Congress, and is currently the general president of the Indian History Congress. He has been a visiting professor and a fellow at Duke University in the US, University of Rome, University of Sao Paulo, University of Tokyo, among several other universities. He has authored several books like Political Economy of Colonial and Post-Colonial India, Imperialism, Nationalism, and the Making of the Indian Capitalist Class. His latest book is Nehru's India, Past, Present, and Future. These books have been translated into several languages, and some of them have sold more than 500,000 copies. He is the editor of the Sage series in Modern Indian History, which has so far published 18 monographs. He has published more than 50 articles in reputed journals and edited volumes, and has delivered more than 75 lectures and seminars all over the world outside of India. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So I want to start by asking what prompted you to write books about history, and what did you think was the extra that you could contribute apart from teaching at universities?
As an academic, I'm a historian. So naturally, I'll write books on history. The issue, probably the question you have in mind is what prompted me to write popular books on history.
Yeah.
And the answer to that is what we learned from Jawaharlal Nehru. In the 1950s, just after independence, he was talking to a group of academics, historians, and he was saying that do not write only for your fellow academics, for 30 other people. You have to write history in a manner that it is meaningful to the people, to the bulk of the people. They should be able to understand, and it should be something which will contribute to their lives in whatever way. So we take that very seriously. So we do two kinds of writing. One, purely academic, research volumes, which have an audience of a different kind. And the other for the public, which are also researched, but not footnoted in the same manner that you would do for an academic volume. And those, for example, we publish with Penguin, which has a larger thing. Our academic volumes would be with, Sage, Primus, and other. So that is how one divides one work. But one takes the job of a social scientist in a third world country very seriously, that your work has to have meaning to your people. It's not just any other profession.
If you have noticed any shift in the environment when you go for talks after the government changed in 2014, and if you could maybe share like an anecdote or an experience of like what it was before and how it has been after.
There's a sea change. I was invited for a talk in Delhi, in a major university in Delhi. I don't want to name and shame them. And the title of the talk was Nehru and the Making of Modern India. And I get a call a few hours before that saying that our Vice Chancellor says, can you drop Nehru's name? You can say what you like, but you cannot even have Nehru's name for a talk in a university. Now, this is a sea change. In Madhya Pradesh, in a major university, Sagar, if I'm not wrong, they were holding a conference on the scientific temper, nothing dangerous. Scientific temper in which people like Gauhar Raza, Apurvanand, etc. were invited. A group of hoodlums said it cannot be held. Otherwise, they'll be, because these people are Deshdrohis and stuff like that. And the police came in and did not allow that international conference, which was online, to be held. They said they would not allow people to switch on their computers. The conference still got held because it was online. And the foreign partners said, we will hold it. But what I mean is, this is a sea change. This is not what universities were when we went to college. There is a complete sea change.
Okay. So I have a follow-up question about that. So what do you think is the impact of having like religious institutions participate with educational institutions, and how does that affect the institution of education in general in a country like India?
You see, it's a complex question. I mean, I must break it up. There are religious institutions which run educational institutions. I'm a product of that. Of Catholic institutions. I went to St. Xavier's, then I went to St. Stephen's. But, I didn't pick up religion from those institutions. So it is one kind of religious institutions which run absolutely fine, world-class educational institutions. The other thing that you're referring to is the intervention of religious groups into what is the educational curricula, which is now what is happening. Like in Delhi University, in one college, the vice chancellor, this, that, and these are all get together to celebrate the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram temple. This is not something that St. Stephen's never did a Jesus Christ, thing. Right through my 20 or 25 years that I spent in these institutions, religion didn't come into the picture. But this is religion being brought into the academic curricula. The state telling you that you must have a course in Porohitya. Now, why should I have a course in it was Jain who was asked. So we said, who are you to tell us? Curriculum should not be decided by the government. We do not even allow vice chancellors to decide the curriculum. Because vice chancellor may be a specialist in one subject. But, is he a specialist in physics, chemistry, mathematics, economics, history? Curriculum must be decided by experts in the field. And now they tell you that you must have courses in Vedic mathematics, which has been proved to be complete rubbish, decades ago, or Porohitya, because apparently the reasoning was then you will have young people getting employment doing marriages in the United States, things like that. That is entry of politics into education, which is completely a no-no.
Is about Martyrs' Day. So Odisha has been celebrating Martyrs' Day from the beginning, but this year, after the BJP government has come into power, we have not been having a celebration. So what do you have to say about that? And what do you think is what are these kinds of steps intended to achieve?
See, I'm not surprised. Because a BJP leader said that Nathuram Godse was a Deshbhakt. And the result of that is that person got a ticket once again, this is Sadhi Pragya, to become a BJP MP. So the forefathers of the BJP celebrated the murder of the Mahatma. Isn't it? In Hindu Mahasabha, RSS, Sardar Patel wrote about it, that you were distributing sweets. Now, how can they have any function on the Martyrs' Day? It is for them a matter of celebration, not a matter of commemorating or thinking about.
So the next question that I have for you is about Nehru. So historians often say that Nehru was a visionary and he had nation building in the front of his mind, be it sanctioning IITs or coming up with the 5-year plan. But recently there have been multiple attempts on belittling Nehru, and his decisions are being second-guessed, long after his death. So can you throw some light on this trend in particular?
This is completely ahistorical. Most of the criticism that is made of Nehru's economic strategy, since you mentioned, and the IITs was part of his economic strategy. What did Nehru say at independence? That we have formal independence, but our economy, our dependence on technology in the world continues. So we are actually in a neo-colonial position. So Nehru reversed that. And he created the conditions in the 30 years or so that his strategy was followed for India to be able to open up to the world as we did in 1991 in a position that we could be competitive. So it is on Nehru's shoulders that today's society exists. So belittling Nehru is, as I said, is complete absence of knowledge of history. What did Nehru do in the first plan? He anticipated the knowledge revolution by about half a century. The first plan is not only about the dams and the steel plants. It's the IITs, the IIMs, the Bhabha Atomic Research Institute. By 1956, we had the nuclear reactor critical. So, and what is the result? Result is today, more than half your GDP comes from the service sector. Where does the service sector come from? From education, from higher education, right? So you're sitting on Nehru's shoulders. You don't kick the ladder which you have used to climb. It's really ahistorical and, in my mind, immoral.
So what role do you think the current government has in fostering an environment of misinformation And what do you think their short-term and long-term benefits are from this creating this environment?
Short-term benefit could be that, because they want to occupy the space of nationalism. So, in order to occupy that space, they have to denigrate anybody who was actually nationalist, from Gandhi, Nehru to the entire national movement. So that is their short-term advantage. We are the nationalists, because though they were not. They were collaborating with the British, but now they want to say we are nationalists, right? So that's a short-term here. Long-term, it does tremendous damage, because what they're doing is, for example, they're spreading through rumors, through the social media, a complete bunch of imaginary facts. There is a website called Dismantling Nehru, with the subtitle "The Last Viceroy of India." Right? So, 47 we didn't get independence. This gets repeated now.
Yeah.
All the starlets that they promote and make into MPs, like this Kangana Rao, who said independence came in 2014 with Modi. So it is that story we said. That Kangana Rao said this. 47 में क्या हुआ? आजादी थोड़ी मिली, वो तो भीख मिली हमें. British rule continued. So they're selling that model, you see. So in order to do that, they have to denigrate and tell lies about Nehru. So as I said that, every pothole in the country has to be blamed on Jawaharlal Nehru. They have promoted books, like a book which says 97 blunders of Nehru. And as I look back at it, I found it had become 127. So every few years they discover more blunders or create or imagine more blunders, So this is spreading lies in the minds of the young people, creating, in my opinion, bigoted morons. It's doing tremendous long-term damage to a country. If you do not allow critical thinking, this is not to say that you just lionize your heroes and do not be critical about them. You can be, but you at least must face facts as they are, and not sort of cover them up with a complete propaganda machinery, which is what happens in fascist countries. And they pay a long-term damage for that. And I fear for the youth of my country and for my students who would grow up learning this kind of rubbish and not having a clue of what actually happened. It would be tremendous long-term damage. And I see that happening in my country. I see our universities being attacked in the same way as Hitler attacked Frankfurt, which was the top university. JNU, where I taught for 45 years, has been rated the top university for donkey's years. Even now, it is still the top university. They've gone after it. So what would be the result? A university which was producing some of the finest minds in the country will be producing morons. People who would just say yes to whatever the Sarkar says, Ji Hazur. Do we want a Ji Hazur kind of society?
So lastly, I would like to ask you, how do you think people can engage with history more meaningfully?
People have to. People must engage with history. No society has progressed which has not been able to draw from its own history what are the positive elements. Not look, as Gandhiji's phrase was, not become a drain inspector's report. Not look into the worst aspect in your history, who killed whom, and then try to repeat it. But to see what is it that we have in our past, on the basis of which we can build. Not go back to our past, but draw upon it. All revolutions have done that, including the Chinese, the Russian Revolution. Look at how much Mao would quote Confucius. He'll go thousands of years back. So, because you must base yourself on history, and you must also learn from what went wrong in your history. I mean, this is like when the current regime doesn't want us to talk about caste or caste oppression. This is उससे हमारी nationalism खराब हो जाती है, national pride खराब होती है. This would be like saying the Germans should not teach the Holocaust, or the denial of Holocaust, which is punishable in Germany. You cannot say that we didn't kill the Jews. Now, should they do that? I mean, is that the way to grow? Or is it the way to grow is to say, yes, we did it and it was wrong? To say that, yes, we oppressed our Dalits for centuries, it is wrong. You know, that's the way to go back to history.
Thank you so much, Professor. This was a very enlightening conversation. I'm sure our viewers will learn a lot from this.
Thank you. I enjoyed talking to you, young man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.